What's up, guys? We're down in the basement here today. We're going to be finishing up the teardown of this CR125. Still got a few things left to do on it. So yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, we're going to start here taking the chain guard off the swing arm. It's going to be two 8mm bolts on each side. You're going to take your wrench, hold down the other side while you get the side out. Have to remove our clutch side cover. We're having to remove our flywheel side cover in order to get to our clutch cable to release it down here. To release our clutch cable, we're gonna push up on this retaining bracket and then pull down with a pair of needle nose on our clutch cable. There we go. Now we can pull our entire clutch cable assembly out of the bike. And I'm going to put the flywheel side cover back on to protect the engine from any damage or dirt while we're removing other parts from the bike. For this top bolt here that holds your triple clamps and your forks to the frame, you can use a big pair of pliers if they're on loose. If they're on there pretty good, I wouldn't recommend using a big pair of pliers because you might mess it up, and they make a special tool for that. Put it off, you can just pull them off. Pull them off of there. Move these two 10s on the other side. After you remove both of the 10mm on both sides of these forks, then you should be able to just pull this bearing out because it'll push it off. Bearings and washers and stuff in the right order for when you go to put it back together. Okay, so I jacked the bike up here. If you don't have a jack that'll allow you to hydraulically jack it up, you can just get a buddy to hold the frame up. And now you can just drop the forks through pretty much. Now they're all the way off of there. Alright, now we're gonna start and try and remove this swing arm. So we're gonna get this bolt right here. It's a 22mm or a 7/8 inch standard. Okay, so we're gonna start with the linkage here. You need a 14mm wrench and a 19mm socket, and you probably want to use an impact since these things are torqued down pretty tight. Okay, so to get these bolts out of here, you want to lift up a little bit on your swing arm to give yourself some room, and then you should be able to just push them out. Be careful of when you're taking this apart, you'll have washers sitting up against here, so don't lose track of those. I just leave them on the bolts. For this final one that attaches to the shock here, it's locked on the other side, so you just need an impact to take it out. Now we're going to take out the top shock bolt. Okay, remove your pin, and then you can pull your shock out. After you remove your tensioner bolt, you just gotta wiggle this guy off of here. Pop your tabs out here, and you can remove. Then remove your 2 bolts here, holding on your radiator. Okay, so I already loosened our tensioners here just for the sake of time, but you just use a Phillips head screwdriver. Then to remove your radiator hose, grab the hose and you're just gonna twist down. And they can be pretty stubborn, but you just pull them, twist them down and off, no pop off. To get out these foot pegs, you're gonna have to bang out your clip here. Use a hammer. You're gonna have to straighten it out. Keep hitting it. Okay. Sometimes these things can be pretty rusty, so just hit it with a little PB blaster. Should work better. When you run out of room before you can hit with the hammer here, you can take a pair of needle nose, stick one needle through, and then just hit the opposite arm. And it'll allow you to keep moving it. When you get it up far enough, you can just take your pliers and should be able to get it out like that pretty easily. Now you can just put your small screwdriver in it and then bang it out with a hammer. After you get this bracket off and your foot peg, I put them back together. Just sliding this guy through and putting back in your whole retaining clip. Do this just so I can keep track of how it went together when I go to put it back on the bike. So we've come to a couple sticking points here on the bike. Some areas are pretty rusted and haven't been maintained, and I'll get into that. But I want to start off by talking about this guy here. If you work on motorcycles, these things are pretty handy. You just jack them up with your foot, and then you can get the frame up to a working height. So I'll link in the description where you can buy one of these, but they're pretty helpful to have around the shop. So the issue I'm having here is where the header meets the engine. So here's the header, you can see, and it comes up onto the engine here, and it's really corroded and rusty up in there. So there's one bolt here where you can see that I did get out. It's stripped originally, but I was able to grab it with some channel lock pliers, and then I was able to pull it out. But this one is way up in there and I couldn't get channel locks on it, and it's stripped really bad. So I'm gonna show you guys how I get out really stripped bolts. This is what I'm gonna use here. I have this Irwin bolt grip set, and these things work great if you accidentally strip something out. So they have, for this set, you can get more obviously, but I have the common sizes, 8/12 and a 13, 11/16 and a 19. It's really handy, and I got my extension, and you just put it on and you pretty much just act like you're taking off the bolt, and it will hopefully grip on to that ripped out threads around the bolt and it will pull the bolt out. I'm not gonna mess around with this one though, since I've already stripped it out pretty bad and it's in kind of a crucial spot and hard to get to. So I already sprayed it overnight with some PB Blaster to loosen it up. And now that it's dry, I'm gonna heat it up before I start to take it off. Okay, so this bolt is way back in here. It's really hard to see, but right what I'm hitting with the screwdriver right here is the stripped out bolt right there. So when I heat it up, I'm gonna heat up this area because I want to expand this area, not the bolt, because I want to expand the area around it so it's easier to take the bolt out. And you also kind of want to clean up the area just so you don't get any bad fumes coming off of it. You want to heat up the area until it gets red hot. Okay, now when you get this thing on the bolt, after you've heated it up, you want to hammer it up with something. Make sure you're secure on the bolt. Holy crap, that thing was on there good, but we got it. Now we're going to continue to remove the rest of the header by removing these two 8mm bolts. When these radiator hoses are tough to get off, you can take a small screwdriver and dig down in and loosen up the ends. I wasn't able to get the engine out of the frame for one reason, and that's because this bike wasn't serviced. So this swing arm bolt that holds the swing arm on, you're supposed to be able to just slide it out of there. I can't slide it out. I've been wailing on it with the sledgehammer, heating it up using PB Blaster. None of that seemed to work, so I'm gonna have to take it somewhere to get hydraulic pressed out. But after I do that, sometime this week, I'm gonna finish up taking the engine out, and then I'm gonna start cleaning up the frame and subframe. If you guys want to see the next steps of taking this engine out and shining up the frame and putting this bike back together and making it look really cool, definitely subscribe. I know this build's this teardown's kind of dragging on just because of some of the rust on the bike, but I could take that out of the video, but I want to keep everything I can in so you guys can see every part of this process, so in case you ever run into those issues on your own.